10-year-old orphan finds guardian angels in Deion Sanders' sons, who give him hope after father's tragedy. A lot has been said about the Sanders clan in light of NFL draft weekend. Not like stuff wasn't being said before, mind you. But Shadur Sanders' inexplicable slide cast a particularly bright spotlight onto him and, by extension, Deion Sanders. About how his proactivity and indulgence may have actually worked against his son. How there's a fine line between being a present, stand-up father and being overbearing. Conceded, the NFL may have gotten cold feet since Deion is a bit of a package deal with his sons. But his family-oriented nature and love have permeated over to Shadur and Shiloh Sanders in a very positive way as well. The two have taken these emotions over to an orphan who needed it, to stop them from veering off course and slipping into a bad place. More than anything, damned if you do and damned if you don't. There's a faction that believes the only reason Shedeur even got drafted is because he's the kin of a gold jacket, a Canton inductee. Conversely, there's a faction that believes being Deion Sanders' son is actually what caused him to slide to the 144th pick. Not directly, but because of the lifestyle and personality that being a Sanders has cultivated for Shedeur. Whatever side you're on, one thing is unequivocal. The discourse and commentary around Shadur Sanders' flawed character has been overblown. After all, this is somebody with a largely clean track record off-field. You may have opinions on the QB or the naive person who went into NFL interviews unprepared, thinking, or actually led to think, he had it figured out when he didn't. But at his core, Shadur is a good guy akin to his father, as is Shilo. Granted, the case for Shiloh Sanders is a little tricky. He's in the midst of a bankruptcy case. It stems from another lawsuit he lost and was ordered to pay millions in damages for after he brutally beat up a security guard in high school. It's a blemish on his image, no two ways about it. But it was a long time ago. If you saw the content around the Sanders draft party, and you probably did, you'd have come across a beautiful gesture from Shiloh. He cracked a joke at his own expense in front of the world, just to alleviate the stress off of Shedeur, whose career, quite literally, was tumbling in front of his eyes. It got a laugh out of Shedeur and was a lovely big brother moment. Also at this party was an orphan who has been receiving the same brotherly love. Over on IG, at the Hifaplab relayed some heartwarming bits of information to their 213K followers. NFL stars Shadur Sanders and Shiloh Sanders took rapper #Young Dolph's son Trey under their wings after he passed away. Read the caption. Dolph's fiancée once said their son became very angry after his dad's death. She even signed him up for karate, but he ended up fighting the coach. This was accompanied by a video of Shadur, Shiloh, and Trey at the Sanders crib. Trey was a prominent feature of the videos that surfaced on the airwaves from that aforementioned NFL draft party. There were plenty of people unaware of who the kid was, sitting on the couch right next to Shadur while he's sweating round one and seeing pics fly by him. Well, now you know. As alluded to in the IG post, Trey was going through a troubled time after his dad, Memphis icon young Dolph, became the victim of a homicide. This was back in 2021 when Trey must have been 6 or 7 years old. It's inconspicuous when exactly Shiloh and Shadur Sanders lent a proverbial helping hand and took him under their wings. But it's beautiful. These are two young adults who've been bestowed a lot of affection by their father, Deion Sanders, through thick and especially through thin. So for them to do right by a kid and share some of that disproportionate affection onward is commendable. It's a testament to their character, which has been scrutinized ad nauseum. Trey is very visibly happy to be around the two in every picture or clip, which, in a vacuum, is heartwarming in itself after what he went through. Deion Sanders' son's humane actions followed an inhumane tragedy. You don't really need to be a hip-hop head to have heard of young Dolph. This was a rapper who managed to breach the underground scene and become a mainstream pull in the years preceding his untimely passing. Southern hip-hop going mainstream is usually restricted to Atlanta or maybe Florida. But young Dolph, real name Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., put Memphis on the map. He even put on his cousin Key Glock, who still carries the flag for their city. Unfortunately, without Dolph by his side. Have an interesting take? Debate. Young Dolph was murdered in cold blood, in the light of day, when leaving a bakery in his hometown. He was shot 22 times. It was one of the rare instances he was out and about without security, but this proved to be a fatal oversight. The news became a national story, with some very morbid videos also popping up on the airwaves. Stuff that you'd hope Trey was able to avoid laying eyes on. Nobody can really fill the void of a father and what he brings to the table, both figuratively and literally. Shilo and Shadur Sanders can probably attest to this more than most. But the pain of losing your dad can be eased if you've got good people around you. People who are conducive to your growth and maturation from a kid to an independent adult. It seems like Trey has that, courtesy of Sanders. Mom Pilar Sanders offers no apologies for unwanted Shedeur and Shiloh Sanders after NFL draft drama. In a draft class that saw Cam Ward go first overall and Jackson Dart sneak into the first round, Shedeur Sanders, the strongly predicted QB2 in the draft class, sat through 3 painful days before the Browns scooped him in round 5. Or to put it in perspective, 144th overall pick. Meanwhile, big brother Shilo didn't hear his name called at all. Undrafted. Forgotten. Almost. Until the Bucs signed him as an undrafted free agent. Now, before you hit the what went wrong button, Pilar Sanders, mother of the so-called unwanted brothers, had a message. And she delivered it the only way a Sanders ever does. Bold, unapologetic, and dripping with confidence. Before that, we give you a little background check on Pilar. After the divorce from Dion in 2013, Pilar called him a narcissist and accused him of infidelity. The case turned ugly, with battles over custody, money, and everything in between. It fractured the family. But fast forward to draft weekend, and the whole Sanders family got together to support the Suns. Then, there was Pilar, resharing an old reel with her boys ballin', and this line slapping the screen. Confident ladies produce confident babies. No apologies. How's that for subtle? Why say anything at all? Because both sons slid. Hard. Shedeur, once a projected day 1 pick, fell to a franchise already bloated with quarterbacks. Shilo didn't even get drafted. He had to call an agent Drew Rosenhaus midway through the draft. Not ideal. Turns out trusting their dad, Coach Prime himself, as their agent might not have been the game-winning play they thought. Dad was our agent, but that hasn't been working out too good, Shilo joked on Twitch. But was it really a joke? Because by day 3, Rosenhaus was burning phone lines just to get Tampa Bay to take a chance on the safety. Pilar wasn't just flexing for the gram. She was reclaiming the narrative. While Dion posted "God is great" and tried to spin Shedeur's 5th-round selection as divine timing, Mom reminded everyone where the confidence came from. "Pressure is a privilege plus our FAV pastime," she captioned it. In a league where draft position is gospel, she saw opportunity. Not shame. It's more than football, she said. It's a legendary legacy for the Headache Gang. That family nickname is a nod to the headlines around the Sanders name. And we do see the pun, especially after all the draft drama. The only way for Shedeur Sanders and Shilo is up from here. Shilo said it best. If they making him, Shedeur, wait. Oh buddy, what about me? You could feel the sting in that. While Shedeur was sliding round after round, Shilo wasn't even in the room. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't draft him. Heck, their GM Jason Licht admitted they weren't even thinking about him until Drew Rosenhaus picked up the phone. "Todd Bowles and I looked at each other, nodded, and said, yeah, let's do it," Licht said. If Rosenhaus hadn't burned up the line post-draft, Shiloh's NFL shot might have never come. So what changed? Timing. Just days ago, Shilo had no agent. The NFLPA's February list didn't have his name or Shedeur's. The plan was to do it solo, and the expectation was from Pops. Basically, thinking that Coach Prime had enough pull to help them land softly. But the draft showed no mercy to by the time Rosenhaus stepped in. It felt like a Hail Mary. Shilo eventually signed with the Bucs as an undrafted free agent, but as HC Todd Bowles said, "I saw him make plays. He's smart. Understands the game. Bowles wants to see what he's got, fair and square." Still, Mike Florio tossed up a warning. Any team bringing in the Sanders boys better give them a real chance. Because, Dion, he'll call you out if you don't. But here's the twist. You think they're done? Not even close. They've both landed in locker rooms, and now it's on them. The stage might not have been golden, but the lights are on. And the boys have got receipts.